JJ, a girl with more energy than a brand new phone battery, stands in front of her new school with the determination of someone who is about to change the world, or at least stay out of trouble. As she takes her first step inside the building, she realizes that everyone there seems like a millionaire in the making. Like a fairy tale castle, the place is so luxurious that even the air smells like money. She decides this will be a fresh start and that she'll keep her cool. But of course, we all know that's easier said than done. As soon as we're introduced to JJ, we learn about her past. She was transferred from her previous school because, let's just say, she had a remarkable talent for attracting chaos. Wandering through the hallways like an explorer, she reaches the reception desk and asks where the famous Section E is, her new academic home. While waiting for an answer, she notices a student staring at her with a look that says, "What is she doing here?" She chooses not to give it any importance and continues with her mission. Following the directions, JJ reaches her destination and, surprise, it's not the elegant building she imagined, but one that looks like it survived the apocalypse. With a warrior's optimism, she decides not to judge by appearances, but the moment she steps inside, the place answers back with dirty walls and decor that screams for help. Even so, she moves forward until she meets a group of students and asks if this is Section E. A boy named Kefir looks at her as if she were an alien and tells her she's lost. She insists, but he, with the attitude of a castle guard, orders her to leave. JJ walks away frustrated, thinking that the only thing she wants at that moment is to give him her lollipop in a very unfriendly way. Still, she takes a deep breath and looks for another more presentable building. She finds a classroom that looks like it came straight out of a home decor magazine and sits down, convinced that this time she's in the right place. Soon, Reiki, the class president, approaches and introduces herself. JJ is sure she's finally starting off on the right foot, but Reiki checks her documents and discovers the truth. JJ is supposed to be in Section E. With a nervous smile and a feeling of betrayal, JJ realizes that Kefir played a nasty trick on her. There's no other option but to go back. When she finally accepts her fate, she discovers that Section E is not only a peculiar place, but that it's made up entirely of boys. She introduces herself with energy, hoping for a warm welcome, but Kefir, the class leader, decides it will be more fun to make fun of her. JJ, far from staying quiet, fires back with an even funnier comment, winning the first round in their battle of wits. From that moment on, her classmates decide to make her life a little more interesting. Every attempt to sit at a desk is interrupted, and when she finally manages it, a rain of paper balls begins. She yells for them to leave her alone, but they seem to have activated ignore mode. At the end of class, JJ runs away faster than someone who forgets their umbrella on a rainy day. In the cafeteria, Rocky and her friends invite her to sit with them. They ask how it went, and JJ, with the confidence of an actress at an awards ceremony, tells them she was welcomed with great affection. The girls exchange looks because they know very well that Section E is full of experts in mischief. At that moment, Aries, a student with his radar on, makes a comment that makes JJ question everything. He says that Section E is the perfect place for her. JJ and Aries clearly know each other, but she prefers to keep things mysterious and leaves the cafeteria without saying a word. She returns to the famous Section E and begins an expedition in search of a decent corner to eat. The moment she takes out her food, her classmates activate express robbery mode and snatch everything in the blink of an eye. Felix, with a "not all of us are that terrible" look, approaches and apologizes for the spectacle. He warns her that bringing food in front of the class is like opening a bag of chips at a family gathering. No one can resist. Besides, none of the students from Section E are allowed to enter the cafeteria or buy food there. JJ, surprised, pulls out even more food, ready to challenge the rules, but Felix, with ninja-like reflexes, snatches it from her and repeats the warning before disappearing. Later, a teacher enters the classroom with an expression worthy of someone who has just found a prehistoric creature in her kitchen. She declares that if the place remains in that condition by the next class, she won't teach for the rest of the year. JJ, with a heroine's spirit, tries to motivate her classmates to clean, but they, using an action movie strategy, leave the room and lock the door, trapping her alone with the filth. From the window, they watch her as if she were the show of the day. With no other choice, JJ cleans while boiling with frustration. At the end of her odyssey, she returns home. We learn that she lives with her uncle's wife. Her aunt asks how her day went, and JJ switches to fairy tale mode, assuring her that the day was perfect. As a reminder, her aunt repeats the promise JJ made not to get into trouble, and JJ, with the confidence of someone hiding a secret, tells her she hasn't forgotten a thing. The next day, Kiffer asks her to buy his favorite snacks. JJ, with the firmness of a warrior, replies that she is not his assistant. Kiffer, with the diplomacy of a cactus, makes it clear that if she wants to stay, she must follow his rules. JJ, already fed up, tells him that ever since she saw him, she's wanted to punch him. Kiffer, far from pleased by the confession, is about to start a fight, but the teacher enters just in time to save the day. At lunchtime, a student named Yuri appears like a celebrity at an exclusive event. Everyone rushes toward him because he has plenty of food, but when he sees JJ, his expression changes from happiness to a storm. Felix informs him that JJ is new to the class, but Yuri shoots her a scorching look and walks away without saying a word, leaving JJ thinking, "What did I even do?" Determined to understand the mystery, JJ asks about Yuri. Felix explains that he was on vacation in Japan and that he is Kiffer's best friend. Meanwhile, Yuri and Kiffer have a private meeting in which Yuri makes it clear that he doesn't want JJ in Section E. Kiffer tells him that he already tried to make her leave, but she isn't easily intimidated. So Yuri suggests they keep making her life difficult until she gives up. Kiffer accepts the plan with a conspiratorial smile. The next day, JJ eats breakfast as if she were charging up for a new battle and heads to school, unaware of what awaits her. On her way, JJ runs into her older cousin Angelo, who with a protective big brother attitude, asks how things are going. With the skill of an expert at hiding the truth, she assures him that everything is perfect, and takes the opportunity to ask about the infamous Section E. Angelo tells her that the section is basically an exclusive club of troublemakers, a place you can't escape once you're in until you graduate. But there's an exception for girls. If they behave well, avoid trouble, and get good grades, they can transfer to another section. With this revelation in mind, JJ continues on her way, thinking about her next move. Suddenly, she comes across a boy in the middle of a fight against 4 opponents, and surprisingly, he defeats them with the ease of someone opening a tightly sealed jar of jam. As soon as he sees her, he greets her as if they were lifelong friends and suggests they go to school together. JJ agrees, and along the way, she learns that his name is Cien. Curious like a detective in training, she asks why the students in her section aren't allowed to enter the cafeteria. Cien, with the spirit of a clever merchant, tells her he'll share the story if she buys him food. With no other choice, JJ agrees to the deal. Cien reveals that there once was a girl named Ela in Section E, and she and Kiefer were a storybook couple. However, she had connections in the administration and ended up transferring to another section. After the change, Kiefer felt she was no longer the same, and one day, in a drama-worthy twist, he saw her in the cafeteria kissing another guy. Enraged, Kiefer started a fight of epic proportions that left the cafeteria in ruins. As punishment, the school banned all Section E students from ever setting foot there. Shocked, JJ processes the story just as they arrive at school, and her day continues as if nothing had happened. At the end of the day, JJ faces a new surprise. Her clothes are stuck to her desk. The culprits are Kiffer and Yuri, who have decided that the fun of the day will be watching her trapped. As the class laughs and leaves her behind, JJ calls out to Cien and Felix, reminding them that she always brings them food, so they can't abandon her now. Feeling a bit of remorse, they help her pull herself free, though in the process her clothes tear. Cien, quick with his reflexes, gives her his jacket to cover herself. Burning with anger and fueled by the energy of someone about to take revenge, JJ goes looking for Kiffer. She finds him with Yuri and other boys, and without hesitation throws Cien's jacket in his face. With the determination of an action heroine, she tells him she won't stay quiet anymore, and that from now on she'll stand up to anything he does. Without waiting for a response, she turns around and walks away. On her way home, Cien walks her part of the way and gives her another jacket he had in his backpack. JJ thanks him and says goodbye before heading inside. Meanwhile, Cien doesn't get a break because the guys he fought earlier return looking for revenge. At home, JJ sits down to dinner with Aries, who we learn is her younger cousin and is clearly not happy about her presence. Angelo, with his family radar switched on, notices the tension and gets upset when he finds out that Aries hasn't been driving her to school. In an act of justice, he orders Aries to become her personal chauffeur starting the next day and to make sure nothing happens to her. Early the next morning, Aries, with the punctuality of a Swiss watch, follows Angelo's orders and drives JJ to school. The moment JJ steps into the classroom, Kiffer appears again with the same food list, this time accompanied by money, like a VIP customer at a restaurant. With all the patience she doesn't have, JJ snaps that she's not his personal assistant and makes it clear that she'll only buy food for her friends, not for him. But of course, since generosity is her middle name, she still goes to the cafeteria and buys everything he had asked for. When she returns, the room buzzes with excitement. Even Kiffer is surprised. Felix, taking advantage of the good mood, invites her to eat with them, and JJ couldn't be happier. She joins the group, but Yuri makes a sour face and storms off. A little later, in class, the teacher begins calling on students to test their knowledge. The boys, as if competing to see who knows less, don't answer anything. But when she says JJ's full name, it's revealed that her last name is the same as Aries's. Kiffer, always poking into other people's business, asks what that's about, and JJ, brushing it off, replies that he's her cousin. At that moment, the tension in the air could be cut with a knife. JJ feels that everyone in the class is upset and she has no idea why. After class, she tries to talk to the boys, but they ignore her as if she were a ghost. Meanwhile, Kiffer and Yuri decide to investigate JJ online. They discover that at her old school, she was the queen of chaos, stirring up trouble wherever she went. At some point, she even had a not-so-friendly encounter involving a pencil and a classmate, leaving several students with battle scars. In the middle of their investigation, another boy arrives with a bombshell piece of information. Her father has been missing for a long time. Her mother left her when she was a child and went off to start a new life with another man. JJ has been living with her grandmother until now, and due to a twist of fate, she ended up moving into her uncle's house. Yuri and Kiffer begin to spin wild theories. Could it be that Aries put her in their class to spy on them? When it's time to clean the classroom, the boys, as always, vanish like magicians, leaving JJ with all the work. Kiffer, taking advantage of the situation, knocks over the trash cans and scatters the mess everywhere. JJ, tired of so much injustice, gives him a taste of his own medicine and throws piles of papers onto the floor. "I'm not cleaning anything unless you help me," she says with a defiant attitude. Things get tense, and Yuri, seeing that the fight could end badly, steps in and convinces Kiffer to help. Against all odds, Kiffer cools down, listens to Yuri, and gets to work alongside JJ. The next day in the car on the way to school, JJ spots Cien walking down the street. Without hesitation, she asks Aries to stop the car because she wants to go to school with her classmate. She gets out and starts walking with Cien, taking the opportunity to ask why he hasn't been coming to class lately. Cien, with an "here we go again" look, tells JJ that he got into another mess with friends of the guys he had beaten earlier. This time, though, the fight was on another level, and he took such a hard hit that he decided to take a few days off at home to recover. JJ, always a bit of a gossip but with good intentions, tells him about the drama in class and how everyone got tense when they found out she's Ari's cousin. She asks if he's going to avoid her too, like the others. Cien, completely calm, tells her not to even think that. He's not going to leave her alone. The two arrive at school together, and later Cien drags JJ behind a building so she can see the class president election. But surprise, there are no votes or inspiring speeches. Here, democracy is reduced to a hand-to-hand fight between the current president, Kiffer, and another student, David, who challenged him for the position. The battle begins, and it's a true spectacle of punches and kicks worthy of an action movie. In the end, Kiffer emerges victorious, and the students celebrate as if he had won a World Cup. JJ, however, stays behind and helps David get home. The next day, JJ arrives with food for Cien and David, which doesn't sit well with Yuri and Kiffer, who watch the scene with sour expressions. It's clear that JJ is starting to get along with the boys in the class, and little by little they begin to accept her. That worries Kiffer and Yuri, who don't want her to feel comfortable in their group. Just then, a classmate announces that it's time for physical education and that they have to go to the gym. Meanwhile, Aries is with his friend, who tells him that the students from Section E will be in the gym for the next class. In the middle of the conversation, Ella walks in and greets Aries with a closeness that makes it clear they are more than just friends. Aries, using the excuse of keeping an eye on JJ, decides to go to the gym, but his real goal is something else, to provoke Kiffer by getting a little too close to Ella. And his plan works perfectly. Kiffer reaches his limit and decides to take it out on JJ. He pretends he's going to teach her how to catch a ball, but instead throws it with such force that it hits her straight in the face, knocking her to the ground and leaving her with a bleeding nose. Everyone is left in shock. At that moment, Kiffer realizes he's messed up and wants to apologize, but hesitates when he sees Aries already by JJ's side, taking care of her. Later, JJ is at home resting in bed after taking 2 days off to recover. Her uncle's wife comes in with breakfast, and JJ confesses that she wants to change schools because she can't handle the situation anymore. She says she doesn't know how to deal with her classmates, and that she also promised not to get into trouble. JJ's aunt, with the wisdom of an experienced mother, tells her that she doesn't have to put up with bullying or stay silent. She can defend herself without causing a scene. Later on, JJ goes out to buy medicine, but out of nowhere, a group of her classmates appears in front of her like they're in an action movie. They try to grab her and take her with them, but JJ, with ninja-like reflexes, manages to escape, and without knowing how, she ends up in Kiffer's arms, who had been following her the whole time. Kiffer, with his usual laid-back attitude, explains that his classmates just wanted to bring her to him. They end up sitting in a cafe, and JJ, without beating around the bush, asks him what he wants from her. But instead of answering, Kiffer pulls out a bandage and, with unexpected gentleness, places it over her wound. Then, as if nothing had happened, he asks her for an ice cream. JJ, suspicious, asks if this is his way of bribing her to forget what he did to her. Kiffer, with complete honesty, admits that he's not good at apologizing, but he knows that all girls love ice cream. JJ stays firm and walks away without accepting the gesture, but after a few steps, she changes her mind. She goes back, takes the ice cream, and continues on her way as if nothing happened. The next day, JJ walks into the school bathroom, and shortly after, a group of girls follows her in. They start gossiping about what happened in the gym, and Freya doesn't miss the chance to speak badly about Ela, saying she's an untrustworthy person. She mentions that Ela used to be with Kiffer but left him to date Aries instead. As they talk, Freya notices that Mika, one of the girls, is unusually quiet. When she asks her why she isn't saying anything, Mika replies that she actually thinks Ela is a good person and not as bad as Freya says. Freya, clearly unhappy with what she's hearing, quickly changes the subject and turns her attention to JJ. She wonders why the boys pay attention to her when, according to her, she isn't even pretty. JJ, who has been listening to everything, feels that her patience has finally run out. She storms out of the bathroom like a hurricane, stands in front of Freya without saying a single word, and splashes water in her face. Without waiting for a reaction, she takes off running towards Section E. Freya and her friends waste no time and chase after her, catching up to her right at the entrance of Section E. At that moment, all the boys from that section come out to see what's going on. Freya's friends also appear, and from a distance, Ela and Aries watch the scene with interest. Freya, still dripping, announces that JJ must be punished for daring to splash her with water. But before anything can happen, Aries steps in and declares that JJ is his cousin. Feeling victorious, JJ stands confidently in front of Freya, sure that Aries will defend her. But to her surprise, Aries keeps talking and says that he won't support her if she truly is at fault. Freya, now wearing a satisfied smile, takes advantage of the moment to explain the school's hierarchy system to JJ. She reveals that the students are divided into 5 categories and that Category A is at the top, where she, Ela, and the other elite girls belong. To top it off, she informs JJ that Aries is the leader of that group, and that Category A students are treated like kings and queens. With the attitude of a soap opera queen, Freya continues her grand explanation of the school hierarchy. The second level, Category B, is for students who are just below the elite and basically serve them in minor tasks, like royal assistants. Then comes Category C, made up of friendly, kind students who get along with everyone. Freya points to Reiki, The same girl who welcomed JJ when she got lost and ended up in the wrong classroom. Next is Category D, where the students act as bodyguards for the Category A students, making sure no one disrespects them. Finally, Freya mentions the dreaded Category E, where JJ already belongs, and where, according to Freya, the most insignificant students in the school are found. After her lesson, Freya offers JJ a way out to avoid punishment. She should kneel down and kiss her shoe. JJ, with the full attitude of a rebellious main character, doesn't even consider it and instead drops a bomb. She confesses that she heard Freya talking badly about Ayla in the bathroom, calling her a disgrace. In an instant, Freya goes into panic mode. She knows Ares won't forgive her for that, so in a desperate move, she makes up a story claiming that Mika was the one who said everything, and the other girls back her up. Horrified, Mika tries to defend herself, insisting that she never spoke badly about Ayla, but Ares, not giving her time to explain, orders the Category D boys to punish her. Just as they are about to attack her, Calyx appears, a Category E student who turns out to be Mika's ex-boyfriend. Without thinking twice, he throws himself at the Category D boys and manages to drive them away to protect her. The tension rises to its peak when Ares and Kiefer end up face to face. Ares is determined to punish Mika, but Kiefer stands in his way. The argument turns into a full-blown fight when Ares attacks Kiefer with furious punches. And in the blink of an eye, all the students get involved in the brawl. Later, Yuri and Kiefer analyze what happened. Yuri comments that all their attempts to push JJ out of the group have failed, since her classmates are now accepting her more and more. Kiefer, with a sly smile, reveals his new strategy. He will make JJ fall in love with him, make her emotionally dependent, and then dump her, shattering her heart. That way, he'll not only drive her out of the class, but also infuriate Ares. Yuri, delighted by the cruelty of the plan, agrees to help. Meanwhile, Cien comes running to warn Kiefer that JJ is fighting with the Category D boys in the gym. Kiefer rushes there and arrives just in time to see JJ on the ground with one of the boys about to hit her. Without hesitation, he steps in and beats the attacker badly. Then, he and JJ stand side by side to face the remaining three. In an epic fight, they manage to defeat their opponents. When it's over, both of them collapse to the floor, exhausted, and JJ thanks Kiefer for saving her. At that moment, Cien and Yuri enter the gym. Yuri doesn't waste any time. He lifts JJ up to take her to the infirmary. But before doing so, he gives her a warning. The school is going to investigate the fight, and he asks her not to mention Kiefer, because if he gets involved in another serious incident, he could be expelled for good. JJ, clearly caught off guard, agrees and promises to keep quiet. The next day, a downpour so heavy hits that the school decides to let the students out early. Without thinking much about it, JJ calls Ares to pick her up. But when she leaves the building and waits in the rain, Ares never shows up. While she's still standing there, Yuri sees her and offers to take her home, leaving her with no other option. JJ agrees and gets into the car. Seeing that she's freezing, Yuri gives her his jacket to keep warm. Soon after, JJ realizes that Yuri isn't driving her home, but to his own house. He explains that the streets leading to her place are completely flooded and impossible to pass. He offers to let her stay at his house until the weather improves, and JJ, though a bit hesitant, ends up accepting. When they arrive, JJ is amazed by the mansion Yuri lives in, more luxurious than anything she's ever seen. He guides her to a room and tells her to change out of her wet clothes. He lets her know she can wear any of his clothes while the housekeeper washes and dries hers, then leaves to give her privacy. A while later, Yuri returns and they sit down to talk. JJ asks about his family, and he tells her that his parents live in Japan running their business. He reveals that he lives alone in the huge house with his grandfather. Later, Yuri takes her to have lunch with his grandfather, who is surprised because it's the first time Yuri has brought a friend home. During the meal, JJ charms the grandfather with her kind and polite attitude. The next day at school, JJ thanks Yuri and jokes around with him as they walk together. When Kiefer sees them laughing and getting along so well, he is stunned. Intrigued, he pulls Yuri aside and asks what happened the night before. Yuri tells him everything, and when he notices Kiefer starting to get irritated, he assures him that it doesn't change anything about the plan. Everything is still on track. Shortly afterward, Kiefer and JJ are summoned to the principal's office. When they arrive, The Category D boys are already there, accusing them of attacking them without reason. JJ, ready to defend herself, tries to explain the truth, but she realizes that the principal doesn't believe her, since Kiffer already has a reputation as a troublemaker. To her surprise, the principal places all the blame on Kiffer. At that moment, JJ remembers Yuri's warning. If Kiffer gets involved in another serious incident, he could be expelled. Determined to protect him, JJ takes matters into her own hands and says that she alone is responsible for everything. The principal, not easily fooled, warns her that if she continues with that lie, she could be expelled as well. Despite the risk, JJ sticks to her story and insists that Kiffer had nothing to do with it. The principal, her patience wearing thin, announces that she will call JJ's guardian. When they leave the office, Kiffer, for once in his life, thanks JJ for what she did. A little later, Angelo arrives and without warning pulls her aside for what is supposed to be a friendly talk. Instead of a calm conversation, she gets a storm of scolding worthy of a dramatic soap opera. He reminds her that she promised not to get into trouble, and after the lecture, JJ apologizes and promises to behave. That night at Yuri's house, Kiffer gathers his friends to explain his Machiavellian plan. He will make JJ fall in love with him just to break her heart and force her to leave the class. Yuri, with an uneasy expression, isn't convinced at all, but he decides to stay silent. The next day, JJ hears a noise behind a trash bin. When she approaches, she finds Mika hiding as if she were in a suspense thriller. With panic in her eyes, Mika confesses that Ares has ordered the Category D boys to chase and punish her because he believes she spoke badly about Ella. She has spent the entire day running and hiding like she's in a survival video game. Moved, JJ asks if anyone helped her, but Mika sighs and says that the only person who could have defended her was Ella, who hasn't come to school today. JJ takes her to the bathroom, helps her clean up, and then decides to take her to Section E to protect her. But when they arrive, Kiffer gives a look that clearly says, "What is she doing here?" and wants to kick her out immediately. JJ, already fed up, yells that Mika needs help and reminds him that he once helped her too. Kiffer, seeing the perfect opportunity for his plan, switches to charming mode and tells JJ that he would do anything for her. Yuri, watching from a distance, can't hide his jealousy. JJ, for her part, is left speechless, unsure how to react. At the end of the day, JJ walks Mika home to make sure no one attacks her on the way. As they walk, JJ asks her about her history with Calyx. Mika tells her that they were in love, but one day someone warned her that they had seen Calyx getting very close to another girl. Although doubtful, Mika didn't want to believe it. But later in the cafeteria, she saw him being far too comfortable with another girl and realized the warning was true. From then on, she cut off all contact with him. Now Calyx has been trying for a long time to apologize and fix things, but Mika has refused to give him another chance. Mika asks JJ if Calyx deserves a second opportunity. JJ looks at the regret on Calyx's face and tells Mika to think carefully about her decision. Later, JJ confronts Ares about the way he treated Mika, telling him that what he did was wrong. She insists that Mika never spoke badly about Ella. While they are arguing, Ayla walks in, and when she learns what happened, she is clearly upset with Ares. Realizing he messed up, Ares tries to make things right with Ayla. The next day, Ayla approaches JJ and thanks her for defending Mika. She says she talked to Ares and managed to get him to promise to leave Mika alone. However, she also asked JJ to keep Calyx away from Mika because she's afraid he might hurt her again. JJ, following her "I don't meddle in other people's business" philosophy, refuses to interfere in Mika and Calyx's relationship, saying that they are the ones who must decide their own fate. A while later, JJ is surprised when, right in the middle of class, a student from Section A gives flowers to Mika and confesses that he has been in love with her for a long time, but never had the courage to say it. JJ, in full romantic advisor mode, tells Mika to think carefully before answering, but the boy interrupts and orders her to stay out of it. At that moment, Calyx steps forward and in front of everyone, admits that he regrets what he did, and asks Mika for a chance to talk in private. Meanwhile, Kiffer and Yuri watch JJ with suspicious intensity as she seems deeply moved by the romantic scene unfolding before her eyes. After a few tense seconds, Mika responds to Calyx, saying that she's willing to give him a second chance. The Section E students erupt in celebration. Later, JJ and Kiffer watch from a distance as Mika and Calyx talk. They see Calyx shouting with happiness because Mika has promised to consider getting back together with him. Kiffer, with calculated strategy, takes advantage of the moment and tells JJ that he would like to live a romantic scene like that with her. Completely thrown off, JJ doesn't know what to say and decides to escape the situation. In the bathroom, JJ notices that someone has written many things on the door. Suddenly, an idea strikes her, and she immediately puts her plan into action. She goes to David and shows him a video she recorded in the girl's bathroom with her phone, where Freya is insulting Ela. With this proof in hand, she feels she has the key to bringing Freya down. Later, when she gets home, JJ shows the video to Ares and demands that he punish Freya. But to her surprise, Ares refuses, telling her that he knows she just wants revenge and that he won't allow her to use him for her schemes. He then leaves, leaving JJ furious because her plan has failed. The next morning, JJ is riding her bike to school when a boy in a car stops her to ask for directions. Ela helps him, and he drives off gratefully. Just then, Yuri appears and asks about the guy. JJ replies that he was just lost and needed help. The two continue on their way to school. At school, Mika approaches JJ to thank her for helping her make the right decision. She hands her a letter and asks her to deliver it to Calyx. JJ runs to give it to him. Surrounded by his classmates, Calyx opens it nervously while everyone waits for the verdict. Suddenly, Calyx shouts with joy, announcing that Mika agreed to get back together with him. Overcome with excitement, he hugs JJ and thanks her for being the reason for his happiness. JJ, ever practical, tells him not to waste any time and to run to Mika right away. Kiffer and Yuri watch the scene, satisfied with how events have unfolded. In physical education class, the students from Section A train alongside those from Section E. JJ proves to be the fastest, leaving everyone behind. But just as she is about to win, Kiffer accidentally trips her in a move to ensure he comes first. JJ, who doesn't forget or forgive, decides to get her revenge and returns the favor, making him fall in the same way. Everyone is shocked because they know Kiffer has an explosive temper, and JJ could get into serious trouble. But what happens next leaves them speechless. Instead of getting angry, Kiffer goes into playful chase mode, pursuing JJ while teasingly threatening to punish her for what she did. JJ runs as if her life depends on it, but in the end, Kiffer catches her. During the struggle, he accidentally kisses her. In that instant, the world seems to stop. The students freeze in shock. Ares doesn't waste a second and rushes to the rescue, insisting he must protect JJ from Kiffer. But Kiffer, relaxed, replies that it was just a joke and that JJ wasn't upset. Unconvinced, Ares grabs JJ's wrist and tries to take her away, but Kiffer, stubborn as ever, holds on to her. They start a tug-of-war until, in a dramatic twist, Kiffer pulls her close and kisses her in front of the entire school. Later, Kiffer appears in class with an ice pack on his face. It's revealed that JJ, with the reflexes of a professional fighter, punched him after the kiss. The next day, JJ sees a couple at school looking extremely romantic and suddenly drifts into another world, recalling what happened with Kiffer. The idea that he might have feelings for her leaves her bewildered. She snaps back to reality, shaking her head to clear the thought. Ares sees her and asks if she's okay. JJ says she is, but as she speaks, she starts feeling weak and decides to go to the bathroom to refresh herself. In the bathroom, Reiki enters and immediately notices that JJ seems to have a fever. She asks if JJ has been to the infirmary or taken any medicine, but JJ, proud, says she doesn't need any and that she'll be fine. She also mentions that she can't go to the infirmary because she has an important exam. Reiki takes the opportunity to say that she's been wanting to talk to her since the fight with Freya. JJ admits she's still upset about what happened. Reiki warns her that Freya won't leave her alone and will seek revenge at all costs. Reiki reveals that Freya did the same thing to her before, causing so many problems that she was eventually transferred to Section E. Then Reiki drops a bombshell. Ares knew that Freya was on the wrong path, but he couldn't punish her because he secretly had a relationship with her behind Ela's back. JJ is shocked. Reiki confirms she saw them together at a party. She explains that Freya always threatens Ares with revealing the truth to Ella, which is why she can do whatever she wants at school without consequences. Intrigued, JJ asks Reiki about her past with Xian. Reiki explains that they were in love, but when Freya found out, she became jealous because she also liked Xian. Since then, Freya made Xian's life miserable. When he tried to defend Reiki, Freya accused him of theft and ruined his reputation, which led to the school transferring him. JJ returns to her classroom, affected by everything she has discovered. Meanwhile, her condition worsens and she can no longer even hold her head up. JJ, sitting between Yuri and Kiffer, struggles to stay awake. When the teacher hands out the exams, she is so exhausted that she can barely concentrate. Eventually, sleep overtakes her and she falls asleep at her desk. A while later, her classmates wake her up, and as soon as she opens her eyes, she panics. She realizes she slept through the entire test and hasn't answered a single question. The fear of failing and embarrassing herself in front of her family overwhelms her. The next day, JJ stands in front of the bulletin board where the exam results are posted. When she sees her score, she is completely stunned. She can't believe she got such a high score. She thinks she must still be hallucinating because of her illness. She turns to look at Kiffer, who is smiling at her suspiciously. In that moment, she realizes that he noticed her struggle during the exam and secretly answered the questions for her. Her surprise doubles when she sees that Kiffer and Yuri also scored extremely high. She can't understand how such intelligent students are still in Section E. The next day, JJ enters the classroom and finds Cien alone. Without beating around the bush, he tells her that he's hungry and wants some food. Then, with astonishing nonchalance, he pulls flour and an egg from his locker and asks her to make pancakes. JJ, still processing the situation, tells him she needs cooking utensils, but Cien, as if revealing a hidden secret, shows her that there are kitchen tools stored in the classroom. With no other option, JJ retrieves them and begins cooking. Her classmates gather around her, excited to see what she's making. Then Yuri and Kiffer arrive and are surprised to see her cooking. Kiffer, not missing the opportunity, says that whoever her boyfriend is will be very lucky, and that he wishes he were that lucky person. Flattered, JJ is so moved by his words that she forgets the pancake in the pan and burns it. Realizing it, she screams in frustration and blames Kiffer for distracting her. Kiffer, with a mischievous smile, leaves the classroom and intervenes to help JJ with the pancakes. During the break, Cien is sitting alone with a bag in his lap. When JJ sees it, she asks whose bag it is. Cien replies that it belongs to a girl named Imelda, who left it with him while she went to the bathroom. But when Imelda returns, she gets furious seeing Cien holding her bag. She immediately brings one of her friends, points at him, and accuses him of stealing her money. Cien, outraged, denies it, but the boy doesn't believe him, and a fight breaks out. JJ doesn't hesitate and intervenes to defend Cien. She pushes the other boy and tells Imelda that she herself gave the bag to Cien to hold on to. But Imelda, unfazed, denies it and continues insisting that Cien is lying. A crowd forms around the conflict. Cien tries to defend himself, but no one believes him, especially the Section A students. Since Cien has a past reputation for theft, Freya decides to get involved, but JJ stops her cold, saying she's the last person who should speak on the matter. Then, without holding back, JJ exposes Freya, stating that she knows Freya has falsely accused Cien of stealing many times before. A student from Section A intervenes and asks Imelda how much money she lost. As soon as she mentions the amount, he pulls out the exact same sum from his pocket and gives it to her. Then, mockingly, he turns to Cien and says with sharp sarcasm that he doesn't need to steal because his family is rich. JJ, burning with anger like a volcano, is ready to fight the Section A students because she knows they set Cien up. But before she can throw the first punch, Yuri grabs her and takes her back to the classroom, telling her to confirm the truth with Cien before starting a war. JJ stands in front of Cien and asks if he really stole the money. With all the indignation in the world, Cien insists that he didn't do it. He was set up. JJ and her classmates believe him and support him. Meanwhile, at home, Ares is with Ella and gets straight to the point. He tells her that he knows she was the one who framed Cien and asks why she did it. Ella, without holding back, admits that she's upset with JJ and wanted to make her feel guilty by affecting Cien. She still resents JJ for influencing Mika to get back together with Calyx, which caused Mika to distance herself from Ella. She is also annoyed that now all the boys in Section E treat JJ well, especially since they used to be close to Ela when she was still in Section E. Ares, in a supportive boyfriend mode, reassures her and tells her to forget about everyone else and focus only on him. He promises to make up for what she has lost. The next day, JJ approaches Kiffer, and asks him for money. She wants to resolve the embarrassing situation they put Cien in. Kiffer, with a face that says this is a bad idea, warns her not to, but JJ insists. So he gives her the money. JJ goes straight to the student who paid Imelda and throws the money in his face, declaring that Cien is not a thief. Then, in front of everyone, she shouts that she is the one who stole the money from Imelda. Ares, incredulous, comes over and says he understands that she wants to protect Cien, but he never imagined she would take the blame for him. Freya, always opportunistic, seizes the moment and records JJ's confession, uploading the video online. When JJ returns to the classroom, she finds her classmates upset. To her surprise, they show her the viral video where she admits to stealing. Cien, feeling guilty, tries to apologize, but JJ tells him she doesn't care as long as his name is cleared. Cien, moved, hugs her in gratitude. Yuri and the rest of the group feel proud of JJ. Kiffer, always with his secret contacts, calls his hacker friend Edrix and asks him to delete the video from all social media. The next day, Angelo sees the video and scolds JJ, but the real surprise comes when she learns that Angelo has Kiffer's number and is calling him for an explanation. Kiffer, with his storm-calming skills, assures him that JJ only wanted to protect Cien's reputation and that the video has already been deleted. Angelo, now calmer, warns her not to do something like that again. Later, JJ's grandmother arrives along with her uncle's wife, who has never had a good opinion of her. The woman shows the viral video to the grandmother, but she, completely confident in her granddaughter, refuses to believe it. Frustrated, JJ decides to go out for some fresh air and take a walk. When she stops at a restaurant, she runs into the girls from Section A. As soon as they see her, they call the waiter over and tell him that JJ is a thief and that her presence makes them uncomfortable. The waiter, without questioning it, approaches JJ and asks her to leave. Just at that moment, Yuri enters the restaurant and sees the entire scene. Without missing a beat, Yuri immediately intervenes and tells the waiter that he will pay all the restaurant's earnings for the day, but in exchange, the girls must be kicked out. JJ, stunned, can barely process what's happening, and her surprise grows even more when she realizes that the restaurant belongs to Yuri's family. The intimidated waiter obeys without protest and expels the girls exactly as Yuri ordered. Then Yuri sits with JJ and invites her to a lunch worthy of a movie. Excited, JJ thanks him, happy with how things have turned out, but the calm doesn't last long. Kiffer appears in his car, and as soon as he sees JJ laughing with Yuri, his expression darkens. A love triangle is brewing. Meanwhile, JJ tells Yuri about her life story and her relationship with her family. In response, Yuri shares his own past, revealing that he has a younger sister and lives with his parents in Japan. While she eats, he can't help but admire her. But when JJ notices, she tries to hide it. Then he asks if she has been the one helping Cien, and JJ replies that Cien is like a brother to her, which makes Yuri relax. Curious, Yuri asks if she has ever been in a relationship before. JJ answers that she has had two. The first boy turned out to be a disaster, so she broke up with him, while the second fell seriously ill and ended up in a coma, which led to their separation. Yuri thinks to himself, I think I'm starting to like her, but I can't let it happen. Kiffer will kill me for sure. He's outside, ready to drag me by my red hair. Deciding to avoid trouble, Kiffer calls his friends and leaves to meet them. Amused, JJ asks Yuri if he has ever been in love. Yuri admits that he once had unrequited love. JJ jokingly says, What? With the most popular girl in school? Don't worry. With a smile, she assures him that she's gotten over it. JJ laughs and teases him that he's after her. Yuri is surprised, but then laughs along, enjoying her playful attitude. JJ says she has to leave because she left her bike outside. Yuri, the gentleman, offers to spend the day with her and take her home afterward. JJ accepts the offer. Meanwhile, Kiffer is in a terrible mood, ready to fight anyone. The situation worsens when they find out that the genius hacker couldn't access the school system or hack the cameras to find out who stole the money. This causes everyone to doubt his abilities. Someone suggests checking the cameras directly at school, but Kiffer, with all his chaotic logic, rejects the idea, saying, Are you stupid? We're from the security department. If we get caught, we'll get beaten, cancel the plan, and execute another one whose contents remain a mystery. Suddenly, someone mentions Yuri, which unleashes Kerr's fury. "Am I not enough for you?" he yells. As punishment, he forces them to play basketball with him. Meanwhile, Yuri, the gentle soul, offers to take JJ home on his bicycle. JJ, annoyed, complains because she thought he would take her by car. Nervous about falling, she clings to Yuri, placing her hands on his stomach. She laughs and begs him to move them because they tickle her. JJ changes position and grabs his shoulders, but the bike loses balance and she falls, getting hurt. Yuri, unscathed and calm as ever, takes out his handkerchief and ties it around JJ's leg, helping her stand and placing her back on the bike while walking alongside to support her. When they arrive at her house, he decides to carry her in his arms, dramatizing the situation as if JJ were on the verge of collapse. At that moment, her grandmother enters and, seeing them, scolds him mercilessly. "Put her down, young man. You're embarrassing us in front of the neighbors." But Yuri, committed to his role as a gentleman, insists on staying to help. The grandmother, though skeptical, invites him in and tells him to sit on the couch. Yuri, not missing the opportunity, takes the first aid kit and decides to treat JJ's wound himself. JJ, holding onto her grandmother from the pain, barely notices because Yuri's touch is so gentle that it causes no discomfort until he finishes. The grandmother, observant by nature, begins to notice a suspicious chemistry between them and asks bluntly, "Are you her boyfriend?" JJ, as if doused with cold water, immediately denies it, but the grandmother insists that they look like a couple. Yuri, blushing as red as his hair, remains silent. JJ tries to explain that they are just classmates, but the grandmother is unconvinced and tells Yuri to stay all day. Aries, the ultimate party pooper, tries to kick him out, but the grandmother, firm as a wall, insists he stay for dinner. When Aries protests again, she gives him a legendary ear tug and orders him to behave. No one in the house dares to challenge her because they know messing with her is worse than failing math. During dinner, the grandmother interrogates Yuri about his family and becomes delighted to learn that his family is Japanese and lives there. Filled with excitement, she asks him to say a few words in Japanese, as if he were a walking dictionary. Then she is enchanted to discover that his family is wealthy. Meanwhile, Aries continues on his mission to kick Yuri out and tells JJ to dismiss him after dinner, but JJ ignores him, leaving him barking like a dog in the corner, while Yuri, shamelessly, takes the peas from his plate because he loves them. In response, JJ takes the potatoes. It's as if they understood each other without words. The grandmother, always with her sixth sense active, watches them in silence before commenting, "JJ, you should learn to cook what Yuri likes because you two seem like you're going to get married. I feel like there's something between you." The real problem is that Yuri is shining. The grandmother has just described her deepest wish. Suddenly, JJ receives a message from Kiffer, but she ignores it and stays focused on Yuri. After dinner, JJ walks him to the door. His car arrives for him and they both laugh together. Yuri feels his heart explode when she says, "Good night," standing there as if fireworks had gone off around him. Honestly, someone else must notice the resemblance to true beauty, because I don't want to be the only one in this. After Yuri leaves, JJ remembers Kiffer's message and opens it, discovering that they've changed the plan. The next day at school, JJ is surprised when one of Kiffer's boys prevents her from entering the classroom. But our protagonist, like a true professional, distracts him with food, cleverly maneuvers, and discovers that they have cornered the girl with the backpack and are beating her boyfriend to force a confession. JJ, outraged, yells at Kiffer to stop because this won't get them a confession, and if the school finds out, they'll have a monumental problem. JJ, a faithful defender of kindness, insists that gentleness works better in situations like this. Indeed, after freeing the girl, she runs to tend to her boyfriend, and he finally musters the courage to confess. But just as he is about to speak, fear paralyzes him. JJ is about to pull her hair out in frustration, but the boys stop her, reminding her that not everything can be solved with kindness. Kiffer, visibly irritated by JJ's attitude, orders them to hold her back while he deals with the boyfriend. And of course, with his muscles, everyone knows a single punch from him could send someone straight to Mars. Scared for her boyfriend's safety, the girl confesses that she is innocent and that someone ordered her to accuse him, though out of fear, she doesn't reveal who. Suddenly, Reiki appears from behind and shows a video where the girl admits everything. JJ realizes this must be the mysterious second plan. Shocked, she looks at Rocky, who smiles with superiority and says, "I came for you." But Cien, like a true dramatic protagonist, intervenes, saying, "She's not lying, she came for me, she still loves me." Of course, all the boys around celebrate him as if he were the hero of a drama. They take the video and give it to the group's star hacker, who uploads it to Freya's account, making it look as if she herself confessed to being the mastermind behind everything. When Freya sees it, Freya explodes with rage and suspects Kiko, the only one who knows her password. She confronts him, but Kiko, indignant, responds, "You're stupid. I've been here the whole time. How could I have done that?" Then Freya begins searching the entire school for the real culprit. Meanwhile, Kiffer, with his classic calm demeanor, tells JJ, "I solved the problem with 100, so you should thank me." But when she refuses, he says she should pay him for his work. When she refuses again, Kiffer grins mischievously and says, "Then I want something else." JJ firm thinks, "No way, nothing is more valuable than honor." Kiffer laughs and replies, "Really? You think I looked at you with that intention? I'm talking about the food in your bag." Then he gives her 3 options: pay him $25,000, thank him properly, or bring him food every day until they graduate. JJ tries to negotiate the cost of ingredients since she would have to pay out of her own pocket, but Kiffer, using his classic distraction tactic, steals the food and runs off, leaving her yelling insults in his direction. When she turns around, she finds Yuri, the sweet boy, waiting with food. They go to their usual spot where they find Cien and David ready to eat. JJ asks about Mika and Calyx, and they explain that they're in the next room because they don't want to bother anyone since they're a couple. Not giving it much thought, JJ shares her food with Cien and David. Moved by her generosity, he surprises her with a luxurious dish she's never tasted in her life. When she has trouble eating it, he takes the opportunity to feed her himself. JJ, delighted by the taste, invites the boys to try some, worried because Cien seems to be eyeing the food a little too intensely. Suddenly, the boys ask a difficult question. If Kiffer and Ares fought, who would you support? JJ feels conflicted, but Yuri, always practical, tells her to eat first and think later because her answer is important. The next day, as JJ heads to school, a new boy with blue eyes and perfect English appears, offering to give her a ride because she's carrying so many things. She firmly refuses, thinking, just because he's handsome and speaks fluent English doesn't mean I should accept. Right after, Yuri arrives in his sleek car and offers her a ride instead. JJ accepts, and during the trip, she asks Yuri how he came down her street if he doesn't live nearby. It's clear he came for her, but he, with a lie more calculated than a chess strategy, says he was running an errand. Then, chivalrously, he offers to help her with her things, but JJ, standing her ground, refuses. No way. This food is for that fool Kiffer. Just at that moment, Kay appears like an expert thief, snatches the lunch bag, and runs toward the classroom. There's no need to describe what follows. When the hungry boys see the food, they devour it as if there's no tomorrow. JJ, furious, starts hurling insults at Kiffer, blaming him for everything. She sits down just as the teacher enters and announces that the school festival is coming up and that everyone must prepare. JJ, confused, asks, "What's that?" She's then explained that it's a week-long celebration full of activities, games, and even beauty contests. And of course, Freya has won the contest every year. Each group has a responsibility, and Kiefer and his team's task is to watch over and clean the place. For this reason, Kiefer adamantly refuses to participate, feeling it's humiliating to act as servants for the other departments. But JJ, with her rebellious spirit, wants to participate to give the festival a fresh twist. The discussion intensifies, and the class ends up divided. Some side with Kay, thinking his position is logical, while others join JJ, attracted by the promise of lots of food and the chance to meet beautiful girls. The teacher intervenes, asking them to calm down and reach an agreement before giving a final answer. During the break, JJ walks with Chien, who, in a suspiciously flirtatious tone, suggests having lunch together alone. Noticing the hint, JJ gets annoyed and decides to call Yuri instead. She tells him she'll meet him and the others shortly, then takes Kerr's lunch bag to return it. Kiffer, clearly jealous, doesn't want her to leave. He orders her to eat there with him, and when she refuses, he calls the rest of the group and forces them to eat there too, compelling JJ to stay. Fortunately, she ends up sitting next to Yuri, much to her relief. The rest of the group watch hungrily, hoping to steal food, but Kiffer, in an unexpected move, warns that stealing is now forbidden. Everyone must bring their own food. Then Kier sits between JJ, thinking this will make her pay attention to him, but she completely ignores him. Feeling sorry for the boys who have no food, JJ suggests cooking for everyone since there's a kitchen nearby. But Kiffer, in authoritarian boss mode, yells at her not to touch the equipment because it belongs to one of his friends. Here comes the surprise. The owner is a boy named Emanir, who works at the school because he also works at his father's restaurant. Unfortunately, his family is in debt because his mother squanders all the money they earn. JJ, moved by Emanir's story, insists they should visit him. Kiffer, sensing trouble, warns her not to interfere in other people's lives, but the rest of the group insists on going. Kiffer, with no other option, accompanies them. When they arrive at the restaurant, they notice it's empty. Eamon explains that he plans to leave the school because if he doesn't pay off the debt soon, the restaurant will close. JJ, with her hero mindset, proposes that everyone work there to help improve the restaurant's income without receiving any payment. As they start working, the number of customers skyrockets, all thanks to Yuri's popularity. But despite the success, Yuri maintains his usual serious expression, not offering a single smile. JJ, tired of his attitude, pulls him aside and says, "Smile a little, your smile is charming." Obedient, he complies, and the moment he shows his teeth, the restaurant bursts into excitement. The reactions of the girls are a spectacle worthy of a drama series. Kefir, seeing that Yuri is getting all the attention, including JJ's, begins to get jealous. The rivalry intensifies as both try to outdo each other. Yuri starts taking selfies with the customers, so Kiffer raises the stakes by letting customers touch his muscles. Within seconds, the restaurant descends into total chaos. Sanity and decency seem lost. JJ, amused, watches as Yuri shows off his muscles while the girls in the restaurant lose their minds. But Kiffer doesn't give up, and the competition continues into the night. Suddenly, Kiefer burns his hand with hot food. JJ, right beside him, tells him to rest and brings the first aid kit. While treating the burn, Kay begins to soften. His face almost forms a heart. After a moment, he shakes off the feeling and proudly says, "This wouldn't have happened if we hadn't come here." JJ, ignoring his drama, thanks him for helping today, including supporting Cien. The attention calms down, but then Ares, Ella, Freya, and her group appear with suspicious expressions. They stand silently, like a standoff between turkeys. It seems the battle is about to begin, but in an unexpected twist, Freya just says, "Relax, guys." Then she calls the main characters to order food. Noticing this, Yuri, who isn't a fan of them, disappears inside to avoid any trouble. Kiffer, on the other hand, tries to stay calm so the situation doesn't explode. Outside, the boys mock JJ, saying, "If you work as a waitress, it suits you." They also tease Kiefer. "Aren't you from a rich family? Are you in decline? You seem to be in trouble." But JJ doesn't stay silent. She makes it clear that they work hard and aren't spoiled like them. To irritate them further, they call Mika, showing her that her own friend is working with them. Then Mika and Calyx want to take the orders, but Ares intervenes confidently, saying, "I don't want you taking our orders." Kiffer deliberately accepts this and places his hand on JJ's shoulder, pulling her closer to him. Of course, our protagonist blushes, thinking, "With all these muscles around, I think I'm going to faint." They start taking orders, and when it's Ares' turn, JJ brushes Kerr's hand aside with total indifference. But Kiffer, like a lion, remains unmoved, continuing to irritate Ares. The main characters, JJ and Kay, announce that the food will arrive soon. Suddenly, Kiko receives a message from someone named Ram, but he ignores it. Meanwhile, Kerr enters the kitchen and encounters Calyx. Curious, Calyx mentions that JJ and Ares have a rather strange relationship. They seem to detest each other. Calyx suggests that if the group goes ahead with the plan and something happens to JJ, Ares won't be affected. He even proposes removing her from the plan entirely, and for the first time, Kiffer starts considering the idea. Meanwhile, JJ meets Kiko, who, without warning, invites her out. Shocked, JJ looks at him incredulously, but he confidently says that Aries doesn't know anything and that he's waiting for her answer. Just at that moment, David bursts in, yelling and accusing Kiko of being cold toward JJ. The tension between them is palpable. JJ, acting as a mediator, decides to separate David and pretends there is urgent work to do. Kiko, not missing the opportunity, throws a comment that makes her even more uncomfortable. "I'm still waiting for your answer, beautiful." When JJ and David enter, David, without filter, exposes her in front of everyone and asks, "Are you dating Kiko?" The whole room falls silent, especially Kiffer, who, looking displeased, asks, "Do you like him?" Feeling cornered, JJ immediately denies it, and before the situation escalates further, flees the scene. Kiffer, visibly upset, begins to suspect that Kiko has plans for JJ, which unsettles him even more. Later, JJ asks Cien if there are problems between David and Kiko. Cien, not very interested in gossip, explains that they had a confrontation at an abandoned factory. When they arrive, David was severely injured and Kiko was holding a pipe, leaving everyone wondering if he was truly the attacker. At that time, David was the head of the department and followed the stay out of trouble policy. Since he did nothing during the incident, many students considered him a coward. When Kiffer took over the leadership, everyone felt relieved because they knew he wouldn't let anything slide. Later, Cien, in his classic teasing manner, jokes with JJ about her supposed interest in Kiko. When she denies it, he mischievously asks if she likes him then. JJ, with all the attitude, threatens to steal his cake, to which he responds by sticking his tongue out at her. That night, Yuri accompanies her home, worried because it's late. In a protective tone, he says, "Why are you so tense? Relax a little. Today I'm in guardian mode." It's clear that every moment with her makes him happy. Before saying goodbye, he reminds her not to forget their plans. Before leaving, Yuri gets into his car and, in a playful tone, tells her that one day she will be his before driving off. But suddenly, Kiko appears, making Jay jump in fright, convinced he's a ghost. Kiko explains that he wants her number, but Aries firmly refuses to give it to him. Kiko insists that he is a respectable man and wants to do things properly because he intends to propose marriage. JJ, feeling completely overwhelmed by the rapid turn of events, doesn't know how to react. Then Aries intervenes and declares that there will be no engagement. Kiko tries to persuade him, saying, "I'm your friend." But Aries, unshaken, responds, "Precisely because you're my friend, I won't allow it." He then rules that JJ is not allowed to date anyone and expels him. Before leaving, he reminds JJ to respect herself and warns her that her boyfriend is still in the hospital while she spends her time surrounded by other boys. The next morning, JJ leaves home nervously, making sure Kiko isn't following her. But suddenly Kiffer appears with a teasing smile and says, "Looks like you were expecting someone else." JJ, trying to change the subject, asks what he's doing there. Kiffer informs her that he'll take her to the group meeting because she's already late. They get into his luxurious car, and JJ can't help but look at him with fascination. Meanwhile, she begins eating, and Kiffer, equally hungry, can't resist taking a bite, but in his enthusiasm, he accidentally bites her finger. JJ, still in shock, sees Kiffer laugh with satisfaction as he says, "I didn't have breakfast because I was busy picking up the lady. You should compensate me." Then, without missing a beat, he asks again if she likes Kiko. When she denies it, he warns her in his classic tone that he cannot stand liars, and if she is lying, he will expose her. JJ is lost in thought as she finishes her breakfast, still staring at her finger, surprised by the accident. When they arrive at the restaurant, the gang is already gathered. Emin informs them that his father has fully recovered and will return to run the place. This means he can return to school, and his mother, who has finally reconsidered, has taken a break to help him. They decide to rehire the former employees, giving them more time to focus on studying, although they jokingly admit they've never really studied much. Emin decides to reward them by allowing them to cook at school to make up for all the food they've missed. And in his classic nonchalant tone, he says, "Forget it, he's like a rock, you can't wake him." They start cleaning the kitchen to organize the supplies, and JJ notices a box labeled Ella. With her gossip radar activated, JJ asks what happened, and they tell her that Ella is a very kind girl, until she gets angry and transforms into a demon. Once she grabbed a girl by the hair and hurt her, which made the school consider expelling her, but instead they transferred her to this section. JJ, shocked, asks how he managed to bring her back after such a scandal. Kiffer cuts her off, saying, "Not your problem." Then, in a mysterious tone, he whispers, "Curiosity killed the cat." "Understood, little kitty." Before leaving, JJ shivers, but remembering that same morning Kiffer held her hand, she forgets everything else. "I told you, the trap is set." JJ starts working, and while taking out the trash, she notices one of the boys acting strangely. Upon checking the spot where he was, she finds something odd, though it's not clear what. Her curiosity consumes her, but everyone else is busy eating, so she can't ask. Yuri notices something is off and asks if she's okay, while Kiffer, always alert, watches suspiciously. Suddenly, David appears injured, and all the boys gather around him, telling the girls to stay back. Naturally, JJ and Mika activate detective mode and try to eavesdrop, but without success. JJ begins to suspect that something is wrong because the boys are acting very secretively. As soon as they see her, they disperse, making her feel like no one intends to tell her the truth. She decides to take advantage of everyone being busy with Kiffer to talk to David. She says, "Come on, as your close friend, tell me what happened." After a dramatic sigh, David explains that Kiko announced he was going to propose to JJ, and since he couldn't handle it, they ended up fighting. JJ, feeling like the official mediator, assures him she will fix things between them, but David refuses her help. Kiffer, tired of the drama, orders the boys to escort her out, saying, "It's only going to make things worse." Cien is in charge of taking her, and jokingly says, "Come on, the dishes are waiting for you." They end up washing dishes together. JJ, clever as always, tries to pry for information, but Cien responds, "You know I'm not one for gossip." Eventually, Cien admits that the boys are planning something to get justice for him. He begs JJ not to press him any further and then runs off. A little later, Kiffer enters with a questioning expression and says, "What are you doing here, miss?" JJ, without missing a beat, asks him the same. Kiffer, with an arrogant smile, he reminds her that it's the men's bathroom and that he has every right to be there. JJ responds that it's not her fault the women's bathroom is out of service. Once again, Kiffer asks her if she likes Kiko, and JJ, exhausted by the topic, denies it. But Kiffer grabs her by the shoulders, pulls her closer, and says, "Tell me to my face." JJ firmly replies that it's none of his business and asks why he cares so much. Feeling exposed, Kiffer can't answer, so he changes the subject and accuses her of worrying too much about him. JJ patiently explains that she's just trying to resolve the issues between the boys. Later, the group gathers and warns JJ not to follow them. But, naturally, curiosity gets the better of her, so she tricks them and quietly sneaks behind. They enter an abandoned building and JJ hides behind some planks. Suddenly, someone grabs her from behind and covers her mouth. The boys call for Kiko, who arrives with his group. Let's be honest, Kiko's muscles are impressive. You can feel the tension in the air. It's clear a showdown between Kiko and David is about to happen to settle everything once and for all. David confidently takes off his jacket, revealing his muscles, ready to fight. But before any punches are thrown, someone from above stops everything and asks Kafir, "Don't you know who's behind this?" Everyone turns and discovers it's Ram, the leader of the gang they had clashed with before. Ram reveals he brought JJ to witness the confrontation. When they try to protest, Ram, with an air of mystery, says, "Relax, guys, I have a surprise." Without further ado, he grabs JJ and asks her, "What's your name, beautiful?" The boys warn him to let her go, but Ram declares that no one can make him. JJ, without thinking twice, headbutts him and takes off running, leaping from above. Within seconds, all the boys chase after her. Don't forget to subscribe for more. Check out more recaps you'll absolutely love right here.